Welcome. As I've mentioned before, my name is Avery Honig, and I am a psychologist. I've actually been in private practice for about as long as I've been a parent. I think about the two jobs as being similar, my job as a therapist and my job as a parent. A good parent parents themselves out of the role of parent, and I strive to therapize myself out of the role of therapist. I feel most successful as a therapist when patients graduate from therapy and are able to manage their symptoms on their own. Over the course of treatment, most of my patients have thankfully seen a reduction in their symptoms. But even prior to the pandemic, I felt like I was seeing a significant increase in symptoms of anxiety and depression in the general population. I've wondered about the cause of this uptick in symptoms. Is it technology? Is it how we educate? Is it how we parent? I started meeting with colleagues, parents, and educators, and everyone was kind of wondering the same thing. In many ways, kids today have more than ever before. Why aren't they happier? Why do they seem to be sadder, more anxious, less likely to try new things? I researched topics like grit, growth mindset, and resilience, and started giving talks to different groups of parents and teachers. I got invaluable feedback from the groups. The parents brought up things like, what should I do when my child forgets his lunch or homework? I feel like I'm getting mixed signals. I don't want him to go hungry, and I don't want the teacher to think I don't care, but I also feel like letting him face the natural consequences of his behavior will help him learn. Parents would make comments like, everyone seems to be getting accommodations, like extra time on tests. Do I need to get my child extra time to even the playing field? Parents talked about their kids being so afraid of making decisions and making mistakes that they would often shut down. Parents of younger children were concerned that their kids seemed clingy, afraid, and incapable of playing by themselves. Parents were complaining that their kids refused to learn to ride a bike out of fear of falling down. They explained that their kids didn't seem happy, had little patience, and were driven by instant gratification. These parents were wanting to be there for their kids. They wanted their kids to live independently and wanted to raise children that were savvy, aware, resilient, patient, motivated, and determined. They wanted their kids to work hard and push through after something went wrong. These parents felt like they were fighting an uphill battle. They could see that the way they were doing things wasn't working, but they felt enormous pressure to bring the lunch, bring the homework, get the extra time, and continually intervene on their child's behalf. They were so concerned about what would happen if they stopped. One of the things I loved the most about giving these talks was that I could see the values start to shift. Each parent in attendance wanted to be a good parent, but over time, that definition started to shift from one that continually brought the lunch to the one that allowed their kid to experience the natural consequences of forgetting the lunch. This was so powerful to me. Over a relatively short period of time, 5 years or so, I started to see a shift from clearing the path to strengthening the kid. I began discussing this idea of connection as a means to build resilience with one of my colleagues. In February of 2020, we decided to start a weekly group for adolescents and their mothers to test this idea out. My colleague met with the adolescents and I met with the moms. In the moms group, we talked about making the shift from always jumping in to rescue our kids to teaching our kids how to rescue themselves. We discussed why it was necessary to raise kids that could face challenges, and more importantly, we discussed the specifics of how to do this. When the month ended, my colleague and I met to discuss the feedback we received and our excitement to continue to expand our work to include bigger groups in the future. But like so many others in 2020, our plans were canceled due to the pandemic. I imagine that none of us have been left unscathed by all of the difficult situations in 2020, but perhaps we have also been given an incredible opportunity. We have to have challenge in our lives to build resilience. So what if we could make meaning out of all of the obstacles that we are facing? What if we could use stress and strain to grow resilience in ourselves and our kids? The world keeps changing, but our capacity for resilience and our need for connection with one another remain. I offer this space as a place to connect with one another and develop resilience in our children and in ourselves.